Je peux prendre un cahier.
Ok. Bonjour à toutes. Merci pour votre présence et l'intérêt que vous montrez à cette question de l'inclusion et des réalités plurielles de l'inclusion en Europe. Thank you for being here, everyone, and the interest you show by being here. Very quickly, I'm going just to present the different speakers around, during this round table. So we'll start with, we'll start with Sándor Klein, who is actually in Hungary, and he's with us, but online. Sándor is a researcher, very much committed into, his research into cognitive creativity, mathematics, lots of things, and inclusion as well. You will develop probably a bit further your field of expertise. Then we'll have Ionela Florentina Jacob. My pronunciation is good? Okay. And you've been an English teacher at Lorraine National College in Botoșani for 32 years in Romania. And you have a degree in psychology and a master degree in the psychology and psychotherapy of the couple and the family. And you'll be the person responsible for inclusiveness within the Romanian team. We have Marina Pavarini from Italy. Marina, on va parler en français parce que la vallée d'Aoste, c'est un espace bilingue où le français est aussi une langue officielle. Donc, Marina est enseignante, chargée de mission pour l'inclusion des élèves handicapés ayant des besoins éducatifs particuliers à l'assessorat du Val d'Aoste, de la vallée d'Aoste. Donc, l'assessorat, pour nous, c'est un petit peu l'équivalent d'un rectorat, je pense. Then we have Julia Midley, tout à fait, qui est de l'académie, qui est de Rouen, a été d'abord enseignante, professeure des écoles spécialisées, puis est devenue formatrice auprès des futurs enseignants spécialisés à l'université de Rouen. Elle est actuellement maître de conférence à l'université de Caen et ses recherches portent sur la mise en œuvre de la dynamique inclusive de la maternelle à l'université. Julia me disait aussi qu'elle était co-directrice d'un laboratoire international pour l'inclusion scolaire. Voilà. On a Celia Marquez Lopez from Spain. And Celia, you are an English teacher in a secondary school in Andalusia. You also have a PhD. You are still a PhD? Yeah, you are still saying a PhD student in the field of education, working on the implementation of the lesson study approach. And you hold both a bachelor degree and master in English studies, as well as a master in secondary education teaching training. You have participated in several international projects cooperating with other teachers, right? And to finish, and then I'll come to you, if we've got Jovita Ponomario-Viene, I'm sure my pronunciation is not good, you'll rectify that, from Lithuania. Jovita, you are the head of a secondary school, Lyceum Vitis. The Lyceum Vitis is a state-of-the-art, innovation-driven school with a strong engineering, technological and artistic background. It fosters curiosity, creativity, and fearless experimentation. So these are the speakers, and we have also Lisa Maria Müller with us, who is going to moderate this roundtable. And Lisa Maria is head of research at the Chartered College of Teaching, where she works on linking research and practice. She leads on the research work at the Charter College, which most recently included 5 reports on education in times of crisis and cognitive science, a project for UNESCO on the future of the teaching profession, and a research project, CPD, in mid-career teachers. Before joining the Charter College of Teaching, Lisa Maria worked as a postdoctoral research associate in the universities of Cambridge and York on 2 projects relating to foreign language learning. And in her PhD thesis, she investigated the similarities and differences between typically developing multilingualism and multilingual language disorders. That's difficult to say, I must say. She is a qualified teacher and has worked, it sounds like a tongue twister, you know. She's a qualified teacher and has worked in secondary schools in Austria and England. And you are, I think, a very good example of plurilingualism, actually. Okay, so this is your turn now. Thank you. So we're going to start with Shandor. You are the first one to speak, okay? So everyone is going to have 15 minutes. One after, take your turns, and then we'll have 30 minutes discussion. During this time, you may have questions, and do not hesitate to ask your question. That can be in French or English. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I will say a few general sentences, and then I will try to tell you our projects. So let me start a little bit extended, the introduction about myself. I started to teach at the Technical University of Budapest almost 16 years ago. And most of my life, I was teaching at different universities and mostly educational psychology. And my background is really twofold. First of all, I'm a psychologist, but I am also a mathematics teacher. And so most of the time I try to combine these 2 subjects. And so learning mathematics and teaching mathematics became one of my main interests from a psychological point of view. And inclusive education came into this picture so that learning mathematics is a strange thing, because for some children and for some adults, it is quite exciting, it's very interesting, it's very challenging. And for many, it is something which causes them anxiety, and they think about themselves that it's not for me. And so there are very, very big differences in how people approach learning mathematics. And I don't know whether it's everywhere the same, but students who are eligible for special care in Hungary, there are 2 kinds of students. One who has special educational needs or behavioral difficulties, or who are disadvantaged or multiply disadvantaged. And the other ones who are outstanding talents. And so I always was looking for methods which would serve those kind of students. Those students with learning disabilities, problems, and learning with outstanding talents. And I was really fortunate to meet somebody who was born in Hungary and then became a kind of world traveler working in all over the world. And his name is Zoltán P. Dienes. And he was one of the originators in the 60s of the new mass movements. And in the 70s, early 70s, he had a psychomathematical research institute in Quebec, Canada. And he invited me to do psychological research, evaluation studies, and other kind of psychological research to Canada, into his research institute. And actually, I chose a picture which was taken in this Canadian research institute in the classroom of our research institute in the 70s. And I think this picture can give you a feeling. What do we mean by inclusive education? And for us, actually, inclusive education means that we give different tasks, different problems, different games to the children. And we try to find the kind of games, tasks, learning materials, which would be a challenge both those who have learning and other kind of difficulties, and also would be a challenge to outstanding students. And Zoltán Dienes was a genius in not only providing theories of learning, but also developing, designing, producing games which were based on certain mathematical structures, but they were such an embodiment to these games that the children didn't see them as mathematics. I mean, they really enjoyed doing them, and they could find interesting tasks, as I told you, which were easy for those who were much slower and for the very good mathematicians. Actually, we never had difficulties with the children. We had quite a lot of difficulties with the teachers, even mathematics teachers, because they were not so very keen on this empirical learning, and although not so very keen on this constructive approaches. But we always insisted that the teachers have to learn these activities the same way as the children, their students, their pupils will learn it. Okay, now if you ask what I am talking about, what kind of games? Well, the mathematical structures behind these games are quite unusual in most of those who teach mathematics, for instance, in elementary or even secondary school children. It's not part of the elementary or secondary school children's learning tasks. But the children do not learn this mathematics playing with these games, solving the problems with this, connected with these games, only prepare them to be thinkers, to be able to think in structure, to realize that if you can't solve a problem in 5 minutes, it doesn't mean you can't solve the problem, but you have to think about the problem intensively, and you gradually might approach the solutions, and sometimes the solutions come quite as a surprise. So what kind of mathematics are behind these games? Well, it could be simple mathematical logic, like and, or, and so on. So all the logical activities. Or it can be actually mathematical groups, final groups, or vector spaces, or so all kind of mathematics could be behind them. The main point is not the mathematical what behind it, but the main point is that it should be it should motivate the children. And when the good teacher sees that it motivates the children, then it will motivate the teachers too. Our aim is, well, actually, many of these games were, as I told you, were created almost 50 years ago. But education and actually pedagogy as a science goes in the kind of curves. It's full of interesting discoveries, and it's also full of things that teachers or the education as a system simply forgets about this good results and try to discover something else, and then at a certain time try to rediscover what had been discovered before. But what we are trying to do is to give these old, in a sense, old games new clothes so that it will be interesting for the students. And we built up something what we call the DNS Mathematics Learning Laboratory. And this laboratory looks pretty similar to this picture, that there are a lot of games on the shelves, and with the help of the teacher, but not under the direction of the teacher, they can play with whichever game they want to play. And the teacher is interfering with them sometimes, but the policy is something what DNS himself called the light touch policy, which means that we only have when it is really necessary, when the child almost gives up. Then we give a little help, but we almost never teach anything in the traditional sense. Because, I mean, it's all sounds extreme, but whenever we teach something to the child, then we take away from him or her the possibility to learn. I mean, if I tell the child that 2 + 2 is 4, then there is no sense, he cannot really discover it. And if he does discover that 2 + 2 is 4, although it was told to him, it's not the same knowledge. I mean, the child might say, oh, is it really? Is it really 4? Or is it just 4 because the teacher told us? So something which he discovers himself or herself is a much deeper knowledge. So what we try to introduce into more and more schools is this empirical discovery, constructive learning through games, through playing. And we really found that playing games are very powerful tools. And if we really can make it home in the schools, then it does have to develop a lot of other things than cognitive abilities. I mean, it can teach the children that I sometimes need to learn on my own, but other times I would like to learn with other children. So it does teach the children how to cooperate, not to let anybody from the group outside or behind. and not let anybody to have such a strong power in the group that he or she would solve all the problems for the others. So cooperation is one thing to learn. And also how important is a strong attention to what you are doing. Success is very much depends on being able to pay attention to the meaning and to details and so on. So I would be most happy if sometimes or somehow I could share with you all these games, which we call manipulatives sometimes, because this is also a kind of interesting thing that, however, this is the time of computer and artificial intelligence, people still like, or children especially, still like to play with their hands, with concrete materials. And although almost all of these DNS games can turn into computerized games, I think there are a lot of advantages of not to computerize them, or at least besides the computer version, having a real manipulative version of these games. Well, I might as well stop here. I could talk about it for hours. Tomorrow, I'm going to a faraway countryside place where we just finished a 30 hours teacher training project, and it is finished now. And the teachers wrote their papers about what are their experience with the children playing with this kind of materials. And I am very happy about reading their reports that teachers and children feel that it is not only fun, but it is very, very useful. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Shando, for your great presentation, and obviously stay with us because there will be questions in the end, and to listen to our other speakers as well. Now we'll move on to Yolena, who's going to present her approach to individualization and inclusion. Over to you. Thank you.
You're right for me not to use the microphone. It's recorded. I think it's better. Oh, so okay.
It's on. It's on. It's on.
All right. So I'm going to use this to wake you up every now and then. I appreciate being here, although the term expert is a bit intimidating and my imposter syndrome is kicking in. So I'll just do my best. I have decided on a top-down description of what inclusive education in Romania looks like. And I'm going to start with the national level, because our latest education law started being applied in September this year. So fortunately, at least at this level, inclusive education is a dimension of the Romanian education that is very important, and the policymakers have been trying to align the Romanian education with the European aspects of inclusive education. And from my point of view, this is a very good thing. I'm going to give you some examples I have found in our latest education law regarding inclusive education. For example, in section 2, for example, chapter 3, section 2, when or where the class sizes are regulated, the number of students in each class or group varies from 6 to 7 students in kindergarten to 18 to 86 in secondary schools, but exceptions, for example, for minorities studying in their minority language, exceptions are mentioned. For example, the number of students can be smaller for these students insofar as their language classes, the history and tradition of minorities classes are concerned, meaning that the number of students can be smaller in such classes. The principle is making it easy for all types of minorities to study these things. There's also a reference to students with special educational needs. Again, the number of students in a class can be smaller if such students are to be integrated in various in public schools. With reference to inclusion of students with special educational needs, for example, it is clearly mentioned that the number of students in a class or group can be smaller if such students are present, and the number of students can decrease by 3 for each student with special educational needs, according to our law. In the same article, section 7, educational facilities, for example, are to provide access to both curricular and extracurricular activities for all students, making the students at risk of exclusion a priority. Also, according to our law, current law of education, the teaching staff are to motivate all students to become involved in both curricular and extracurricular activities without any type of exclusion or discrimination. Section 13, for instance, is dedicated to education for people belonging to national minorities who have the right, which have the right to study in their minority languages at all levels, from kindergarten to university. Let me find something else. There's also reference to Romanian people who are educated in other countries than Romania, and those who return to Romania, because there are numerous cases. And readjustment groups can be formed and will be formed for the Romanian students returning to Romania after long periods of time spent abroad. Scholarships are offered to support reintegration in the Romanian educational system. And such students even benefit from special fees for tickets to the theater, the opera, the cinema, and other cultural events. In chapter 4, good quality inclusive education for all primary beneficiaries of education is specifically mentioned and explicitly mentioned. And I would like to focus particularly on Article 67 in the current Romanian education law, according to which Romania guarantees the right to inclusive education for all beneficiaries based on the principle of inclusiveness or inclusion. Inclusion focuses on the right to education of each and every child and refers to the process and the methods to ensure that an inclusive environment for learning, for the acquisition of knowledge and skills. There's also reference to cognitive abilities, to forming positive relationships at school, with a view to ensuring the well-being of all the students, taking into account their individual needs. So it all sounds good at this level. At least the aims of the current Romanian education law are good aims. And in the same article, Article 67, there is a definition of what students with who risk exclusion are. These students would be those who risk discrimination based on various criteria, either social, economic criteria, cultural or religious. National minorities are also mentioned. Refugees, students coming from rural areas, students with special educational needs, disabled children, but also children separated from their parents temporarily or permanently. And this is what I'm going to refer to further on, because students whose parents work abroad are at a risk of exclusion because they are separated from their parents, one or both of them, for a prolonged period of time. Also mentioned to pregnant minority girls is made. Also, the Romani community is mentioned. And again, at risk of exclusion are considered children, young people in penitentiaries, in detention centers, in general victims of violence and or abuse, neglected children or exploited children, and drug users. So all these categories are clearly mentioned in this article. The same article refers to as measure taken at national level. There is a National Center of Inclusive Education, which will be created, a public institution of national importance, subordinated to the Ministry of Education, with the budget from the Ministry of Education. A national center which will have the following responsibilities. I must probably mention that at this point, the existence of this center is clearly stated in the law, but the subsequent structures involved or which support the activity of this center already exist and have existed for some time. So this National Center of Inclusive Education is to support the Ministry of Education in the drawing up of its strategies for inclusive education for all beneficiaries, primary, the students, but also their families and the community in general. The same center will coordinate the activity of the regional and local centers of educational assistance and resources, which already exist, and which employ basically school psychologists, counselors, support teachers, speech therapists. Also, the center will help create the methodologies for the Ministry of Education regarding the evaluation and the provision of educational support and services to the students with special educational needs. The same center will help create the public policies and programs and will monitor the implementation of inclusive education policies in all schools. The center will also develop methodologies, techniques, educational resources and tools which are meant to support inclusive education. Also, the same National Center of Inclusive Education will help organize, train and supervise the human resources, psychologists, therapists, support teachers, counselors, whose services are needed in order to implement inclusive education. Programs will be developed and implemented by the same center. Programs which will offer training and professional development of the teaching staff, training in inclusive education, of course. Also, but these already exist, there is special mention for a support room in every school, a support room for educational and psychological and pedagogical support, where the school psychologists, counselors, support teachers, speech therapists can organize a safe and inclusive space for their work with students. Let me check. Of course, the integration of students with special educational needs is clearly regulated by the Romanian law of education. And also cooperation between and among schools and other institutions is regulated. Institutions of healthcare, the law enforcement, social services, cooperation which is meant to put the interest of all beneficiaries of education at the place where it belongs. There is section 2 of the same law, which refers to special education, which involves personalized curriculum, the so-called school at hospital for students who require long periods of hospitalization, complementary activities, and personalized methods for students suffering from various learning disorders such as dyslexia, but not only. The students who have special educational needs are currently and will be schooled together with the other beneficiaries of education, according to the new law as well. And there is a 4-level type of support, which is mentioned: basic, supplementary, intensive, and special, with details for each of them. Let me find. Okay, there is also in our Romanian education law section 5 referring to combating early school leaving. In that, various programs ensuring easy access to education, such as transport, social scholarships, free school stationery, and health meals, are provided. Also, priority investments in education meant to ease access to education for all children are regulated. In section 7, school segregation is mentioned, and it is clearly stated that school segregation is not to be allowed at any level. So students in the Romanian schools are not to be segregated on any criteria, be it ethnicity, disability, special needs, whether they are belonging to certain socioeconomic groups or residential areas or academic results. So segregation on any type of discriminating criteria is to be excluded. There are also provisions in the Romanian education law in chapter 6, the national curriculum, for example, which is to offer equal opportunities to all students and ensure the achievement of their potential. And inclusion of hearing or visually impaired students is also mentioned. Also, according to this law, admission to secondary schools is to become a lot more inclusive, although some provisions also already existed before September 2023. For example, 10% of the places in the Romanian secondary schools are to be offered to students with disabilities, special needs, people belonging to Roma ethnic groups, and so on. And in chapter 9, for example, the Romanian law deals with the education for highly performing students because they also have special educational needs of a different kind. So there are these centers of excellence performance. This would be the English translation of Centre de Excelență in Romanian. There is an annual selection of highly performing students. And they can and are offered scholarships, and there is special training for such students, usually on at the end of the week. And there are very small groups with which very good professionals deal and who benefit from further advancement in a certain field. We have Center of Excellent Performance for each and every, for almost each and every subject. STEM subjects, obviously, but also languages, Latin, for instance, also benefits from such a center. So students who can and will perform at such a level can have special treatment in the best possible way. So I'm going to talk now about the next level. Is it? Okay, I'm going to make this very quick. 3 minutes? 1 minute. Okay. There is also the local school inspectorates are to implement the education law. And then these school inspectorates work with schools, such as our school, to further develop and run programs and projects to make these things become real. And I can tell you more in another episode, apparently. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this introduction to the Romanian context, and we will indeed be able to cover some more of that and explore it during the discussion. So thank you very much. Oh, you're presenting from over here? Yes. Right, okay. Donc, si j'ai bien compris, on passe à une présentation en français.
Oui,
c'est bien ça, en français, mais sur le contexte italien. D'accord. Alors, c'est à toi.
Mais, parce que j'ai un problème. Non. Je suis ici. Voilà. Ok. Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Alors, aujourd'hui, je voulais partager avec vous un projet qui, selon nous, représentait un peu le modèle italien de l'inclusion. Si je réussis à faire aller ça. Okay. Voilà, qui c'est un projet qui a été réalisé dans une école primaire. Pardon, je vais faire ici, mais j'y arrive. Hein. Vous entendez bien Alors, je repars. Okay. Oui, mais je ne voulais pas la lecture, alors je fais comme ça. Hein. Excusez-moi. OK. Qu'il a été réalisé dans une école primaire qui était composée de 19 élèves. Et dans cette classe était inséré aussi un élève avec autisme qui présentait évidemment des problèmes de communication, des difficultés à s'adapter à la nouveauté et aussi à accepter tous les nouveautés qui n'étaient pas prévisibles. Et en particulier, il présentait une certaine détresse par rapport à la perte au jet ou aux activités. Donc, les enseignants ont pensé à réaliser ce projet qui était divisé en plusieurs phases. Alors, dans la première phase, ils ont lu une histoire qui s'appelait Topotype, qui c'est un petit rat. Je n'aime pas perdre. Et donc, il y a eu la lecture et aussi la sélection des images plus saillantes et la lecture avec les images apportées à une petite vidéo pour permettre aux enfants et aux enseignants à reproposer l'histoire pendant le parcours. Dans la deuxième phase, on a demandé aux élèves d'écrire les phrases les plus saillantes de l'histoire et aussi de dessiner des éléments de l'histoire qui les avaient frappés. Et ces phrases et ces images ont conduit à la réalisation d'un petit vidéo à nouveau. Et puis, on a fait une activité d'éducation civique et on a réfléchi sur les comportements gentils ou pas gentils que dans l'histoire, le personnage mettait en œuvre. Et après, sans l'élève, à l'absence de l'élève avec autisme, on a réfléchi avec les copains sur les épisodes de colère et on a réfléchi aussi sur les stratégies qui pouvaient être efficaces pour donner aux copains des comportements, des exemples, des modèles de comportements alternatifs par rapport aux situations qu'ils vivaient. Je vous montre un petit vidéo, si je réussis, sur l'activité de réflexion sur les stratégies, qui s'appelle Notre stratégie. Ça. Ah, où est? En bas à droite. Ici? Non. Ah, ici. Continuez. Alors, un moment. Ok.
Bravi e unici e gentili e non possiamo sempre perdere oggi. Abbiamo un compagno che deve trattenere. Usano un libro che ci sono le cose cattive che dicono che sono tutti tristi e poi pure che quando vi fai bravo sono felici. Nel libro poi voi capite che non lo fa più. Oppure quando si arrabbia lo stiamo fermando con il dopo quando Valentino si arrabbia, il maestro lo portano fuori e poi lo calmano e poi lo fanno entrare. Quando Valentino è arrabbiato, lo diamo sempre un video e si calma. Quando Valentino è arrabbiato, facciamo l'esempio così almeno Valentino capisce che non deve fare male ai suoi compagni. E noi gli diciamo che non deve arrabbiare. È importante.
Cette phase était une occasion pour réfléchir avec les copains sur le fonctionnement du camarade et sur, pour donner aussi un sens au comportement pas bon qu'il agit. Et dans la dernière phase alors je dois faire comme ça, je m'excuse. Yes. Dans la dernière phase, je disais, la classe aussi a réalisé une autre vidéo qui je vous montre. Si je réussis. Qu'il était une modélisation vidéo. Donc, on a réalisé des petits sketchs et dans ces sketchs, les copains donnaient aux camarades le juste comportement à tenir dans l'occasion.
Sono gentile, anche se non mi piace perdere. Gioca a memory con i suoi compagni. Sta vincendo. Maestra, porta i bambini a giocare a calcio in foresta. Guarda il tuo petit ha perso. Adesso il nostro petit ha capito, è stato sempre gentile.
Donc, à partir de l'histoire, on a réalisé ces sketchs et sont les copains qui mettent en scène les comportements plus fonctionnels en lui donnant un modèle. Et ce la posso fare. Bon, on le va voir ici. Et les finalités du projet étaient différentes. Je les ai résumées en ces 3 finalités. La première finalité, c'était d'engager les camarades, les copains de la classe et de les sensibiliser sur le fonctionnement du camarade et donc de faire connaître aux camarades le fonctionnement et leur expliquer le sens de certains comportements. Et un autre objectif, je l'ai déjà dit, c'était de donner aux copains qui avaient des difficultés de comportement dans la classe des modèles alternatifs et plus fonctionnels de comportement. Et un autre objectif, c'était de conjuguer les objectifs de la programmation individualisée d'élèves avec handicap avec les objectifs de toute la classe. Et enfin, je voulais parler, si je réussis, des cadres de référence de ce projet, qui sont ceux qui... Mais je ne réussis pas. Je ne posso fare. Excusez-moi, Emma. La technologie. Ma perché? Ok. Alors, le premier cadre de référence, c'est sûrement le cadre des lois qui sont présents en Italie. Et ont vu un processus qui a conduit de l'exclusion à l'inclusion, parce qu'en Italie, il n'y a pas des écoles spéciales ou des classes différenciées. Tous les élèves, n'importe quel handicap, même grave, ont le droit de rester dans les classes avec les copains. Et ici, il y a un résumé des lois principales qui sont présentes en Italie sur l'inclusion. Les élèves avec des besoins éducatifs particuliers sont subdivisés en 3 catégories. Il y a les élèves avec handicap qui sont tutelés d'une loi qui c'est la loi 104 du 1992. Et pour ces élèves, il y a des ressources particulières parce qu'il y a des enseignants spécialisés dans le soutien de ces élèves qui font des activités en co-conduction avec les collègues de discipline et qui sont assignés à la classe de l'élève avec handicap. Puis, il y a les élèves avec des troubles de l'apprentissage et il y a une loi qui c'est du 2010. Et pour ces élèves, les écoles doivent élaborer des plans didactiques personnalisés et prévoir des mesures compensatoires ou dispensatoires pour faciliter leur apprentissage. Et puis, il y a une directive ministérielle du 2012 qui parle de élèves avec des besoins éducatifs particuliers qui ne sont pas prévus par les deux lois précédentes et qui peuvent avoir des difficultés, même temporaires, par rapport aux conditions socio-économiques, linguistiques, culturelles, aussi pour des difficultés psychomotives ou comportementales, et pour lesquelles les écoles peuvent prévoir des plans didactiques personnalisés, plus ou moins temporaires. Un autre cadre de référence, c'est le cadre de l'organisation. En Italie, il y a des bureaux qui sont en soutien de l'autonomie scolaire et où il y a des enseignants détachés comme moi qui s'occupent d'inclusion et qui soutiennent les écoles par rapport à l'inclusion en participant aux événements sur l'inclusion, organisant des formations pour les enseignants, donnant soutien aux écoles pour la construction de parcours personnalisés et participant à des groupes dédiés à l'inclusion de différents types. Et aussi en documentant des bonnes pratiques. Par exemple, le projet que je vous ai montré, oui, j'ai presque terminé, le projet que je vous ai montré, j'ai pu le montrer parce que il a participé à un concours qu'on a organisé au niveau régional. Et un autre cadre fondamental, c'est celui de la classification internationale du fonctionnement de la santé et de l'handicap qui a été élaboré par l'Organisation mondiale de la santé dans le 2001 et qui conceptualise l'handicap comme le résultat d'une complexe interaction entre la condition de santé de l'individu et le contexte dans lequel il vit. Et le contexte peut représenter un facilitateur ou une barrière pour le fonctionnement de l'individu. Et donc, on doit passer du modèle de l'égalité, donc de donner à tout le monde les mêmes choses, à un modèle d'équité et donc de donner à chacun ce dont il a besoin, et dans une perspective qui est la perspective de la classification internationale, on devrait arriver à éliminer les barrières et à augmenter les facilitateurs. Et le dernier cadre que je voulais diviser, c'est celui de la projection universelle pour l'apprentissage, le Universal Design for Learning, qui part de la considération que tous nos élèves sont différents, que chaque élève a différents moyens de représenter ses connaissances, d'agir et d'exprimer les connaissances, et aussi de s'engager dans son apprentissage. Et dans ce modèle, nous indique une projection flexible a priori et pas a posteriori, et donc une projection qui utilise différents matériaux, différentes méthodologies, différentes stratégies, et qui peut s'adapter à la diversité de nos élèves. Et voilà. Et ici, il y avait Je m'excuse pour les difficultés techniques.
Merci beaucoup pour cette présentation sur le contexte italien avec un exemple concret comment c'était mis en place dans une école. Nous passons donc ensuite au contexte français. En français.
Merci. Alors, j'attends juste que ça se cale. Donc, par rapport à ce que je vais vous présenter, je vais d'abord vous donner les éléments de contexte et après, j'utiliserai l'exemple qui va se projeter derrière moi. Quelques éléments de contexte. En fait, en France, on a une très, très grande histoire avec la question du handicap qui fait que notre système éducatif est très représentatif en fait de cette histoire. S'il y en a quelques-uns qui connaissent notre système éducatif, on va dire de manière assez générale, vous avez des classes pour les enfants qui n'ont pas de problème d'apprentissage. Et à partir du moment où vous avez des enfants qui ont des problèmes pour rentrer dans les apprentissages, et s'ils ont une reconnaissance médicale d'une pathologie, d'un trouble, etc., en fait, on va plutôt avoir des orientations dans des classes et des dispositifs spécialisés. Donc, quand on regarde aujourd'hui notre système éducatif, les classes spécialisées, les dispositifs qui existent ont une très, très grande histoire et on a du mal un petit peu à s'en séparer. Pourquoi je dis qu'on a du mal à s'en séparer? Parce que, alors moi j'interviens dans la formation des futurs enseignants et puis des enseignants aussi en formation continue. Et quand on va parler des élèves qui ont des difficultés à entrer dans les apprentissages, on va dire qu'un des plus premiers réflexes, c'est de se dire, que dit le médecin? Est-ce qu'il est handicapé? Est-ce qu'il a une maladie? Et s'il y a un handicap, s'il y a maladie, je ne suis pas enseignant spécialisé, je peux rien faire. Je rigole, mais pas beaucoup, pas si loin que ça. Donc, il y a plutôt une tendance, en fait, quand on a un enfant qui a des difficultés à entrer dans les apprentissages, de l'orienter, de le réorienter, en fait, vers des classes spécialisées. Donc, on a des classes spécialisées qui sont à l'intérieur de l'établissement scolaire, en école élémentaire, en collège et en lycée. On a aussi des classes spécialisées qui sont à l'extérieur de l'école, dans des établissements spécialisés. On a des classes qui sont entre deux, c'est-à-dire à la fois du côté établissement spécialisé et de l'école. On a aussi des classes qui sont alors pour des enfants un peu plus âgés, des classes dans le milieu pénitentiaire, par exemple. On les oublie assez facilement. On a des classes à l'hôpital. Et en fait, la difficulté qu'on a sur notre système éducatif, c'est qu'on veut absolument catégoriser les enfants. On veut les mettre dans des cases. Donc, s'ils ont un problème, on va se dire que s'il y a un problème, il y a une solution. Et la solution, souvent, c'est une classe ou un dispositif spécialisé. Donc, c'est un petit peu difficile dans ces conditions-là de parler de dynamique inclusive, d'inclusion, en fait. C'est un des premiers freins que l'on a sur notre système éducatif. Cette catégorisation, on la retrouve aussi du côté de la formation des enseignants spécialisés. C'est-à-dire qu'avant 2017, puisqu'il y a eu des évolutions, pour moi, en fait, j'étais enseignante spécialisée et ma spécialité, c'était la déficience intellectuelle. C'est pas très joli à dire comme ça. Et en fait, je ne pouvais intervenir qu'à partir du moment où un enfant était passé devant un médecin dont on avait dit qu'il a une déficience intellectuelle. Donc, on a comme ça des enseignants spécialisés qui avaient des spécialités de handicap. On va dire ça comme ça. Il y a une évolution majeure qui s'est produite en France le 11 février 2005, la loi du 11 février 2005. Alors, comme toutes les lois, ça met beaucoup de temps à se mettre en place, mais cette loi a apporté des éléments assez fondamentaux, notamment deux termes, celui de compensation et celui d'accessibilité. Dans l'histoire de notre système éducatif, quand on avait un enfant qui avait des difficultés, on met de la compensation. On rajoute des choses pour essayer de le réparer, ça, pour qu'il soit comme les autres. Et on ne parlait pas beaucoup d'accessibilité. La loi de 2005, elle nous demande de faire le contraire. C'est-à-dire d'abord de penser l'accessibilité. Et si vraiment on n'y arrive pas, on mettra en place des choses spécifiques pour les enfants qui ont le plus de difficultés. Et donc, comment ça se traduit au niveau de notre système éducatif? Pour l'instant, pas terrible. Pour l'instant, pas terrible, parce que dans les discours, parce que dans les représentations des enseignants, mais voilà, des familles aussi, des éducateurs, d'autres professionnels, quand on va parler d'accessibilité, on reste beaucoup sur l'accessibilité physique. C'est-à-dire comment je rentre dans une salle. Est-ce que j'ai un escalier? Est-ce que j'ai un ascenseur, etc. On ne parle pas encore beaucoup d'accessibilité des apprentissages. Pourtant, c'est dedans. Donc là, on a un gros travail en fait à faire au niveau de notre système éducatif. Donc, deuxième problème. Un troisième problème, c'est qu'en fait, tout le monde n'est pas d'accord sur ce qu'on va mettre derrière le terme inclusion. Inclusion, en fait, vous avez ceux qui vont vous dire, inclusion, alors je mets des guillemets, c'est pas joli, ce sont les enfants handicapés. Point. Alors, si on regarde du côté du ministère et des lois, des circulaires, quand on parle des élèves à besoins particuliers et qu'on va chercher les statistiques, ce sont les élèves en situation de handicap ou les élèves qui ont une reconnaissance médicale qui a été enregistrée d'un point de vue administratif. Ceux qui ont des difficultés à entrer dans les apprentissages, ceux qui sont entre deux, ils n'existent pas dans les statistiques. Donc, c'est un petit peu difficile après de pouvoir mettre en place des ressources par rapport à ça. Ce qui commence à se mettre en place par la formation, c'est que quand on parle de besoins éducatifs particuliers, finalement, mais vous le saviez comme moi, ce ne sont pas uniquement les élèves qui sont reconnus en situation de handicap. On a toutes les catégories que l'on retrouve dans les accords de Salamanque, en situation de handicap, les enfants qui sont malades. Vous avez toutes ces catégories-là qui existent, mais voilà, ça a du mal à faire son chemin dans notre système éducatif. On a du mal aussi à faire reconnaître qu'un enfant qui a des grandes difficultés scolaires, il a besoin de moyens supplémentaires. Donc, on pourrait dire, on va rajouter des enseignants, et d'autant plus des enseignants spécialisés, sauf qu'en ce moment, il n'y a plus beaucoup de personnes qui veulent être enseignants et encore moins enseignants spécialisés. Quatrième problème. C'est pas très rigolo ce que je vais vous raconter. Je suis désolée. Alors, quand même, il y a des choses qui sont intéressantes et qui se mettent en place. C'est qu'on bénéficie des courants pédagogiques et des recherches que l'on retrouve à l'international, notamment en fait les lignes directrices comme de la conception universelle des apprentissages, tel que ça a été évoqué pour l'Italie. Ça, ce sont des choses qu'on commence en fait à aborder au niveau de la formation. Mais ça demande en fait un énorme travail pour nombre des formateurs parce que notre travail, c'est de permettre de faire comprendre aux étudiants que non, on ne va pas poser un diagnostic médical. Nous, ce qui nous intéresse, c'est qu'est-ce qui fait que l'enfant n'arrive pas à rentrer dans les apprentissages. Donc, ça veut dire que le côté médical, il a une importance, mais moi, je suis enseignante, je ne suis pas médecin. Donc, qu'est-ce que je vais pouvoir mettre en place d'un point de vue pédagogique pour que ça fonctionne? Donc, ça veut dire que du côté des étudiants, c'est l'exemple en fait qui est derrière moi. Je vous ai mis une description d'un enfant, je l'ai appelé Max, vous voyez. Donc Max, il a 8 ans et mais en fait, il a des difficultés à parler. C'est assez courant. Quand on lui pose une question, il dit oui. Voilà, il dit oui. Il cherche pas, il dit oui. Mais en fait, on ne sait pas trop ce qu'il a compris et lui non plus. Un peu comme l'exemple de Simplet ce matin, il ne sait pas trop en fait où il va. Quand il est avec un adulte, en fait, il est toujours en train de regarder la tête de l'adulte pour deviner s'il a bon ou s'il n'a pas bon. Vous savez, comme quand vous avez vos élèves, vous dites alors, ça va? Il vous regarde et si vous faites un sourire, il va vous dire oui. Si vous ne faites pas un sourire, il va dire non. Donc voilà, Max, il est comme ça. Et puis quand il est avec ses camarades, en fait, quand il est autour de sa table, il farfouille, il cherche ses cahiers, etc. Mais il n'arrive pas à rentrer dans la tâche. Il n'y va pas. Et quand il est avec ses camarades, il se fait moquer. Et puis en fait, finalement, il en a pris l'habitude, donc il se laisse faire. Et puis il dit plus rien. Ce profil d'élèves-là, on en a plein. Dans les écoles, on en a vraiment beaucoup. Alors là, on ne va pas chercher le côté médical, mais ce sur quoi on travaille avec les étudiants, c'est mais finalement, cet enfant-là, de quoi il a besoin? Alors, je vous les ai mis sur le côté droit. Déjà, il a besoin un peu d'un filet de sécurité. C'est-à-dire, est-ce que quand il est dans la classe, dans la cour de récréation, etc., est-ce qu'il se sent suffisamment bien, lui? Est-ce qu'il a une suffisante grande estime de lui pour être capable de dire « je vais essayer ». Peut-être que je vais me tromper, mais c'est pas grave. Je suis dans un espace où je vais apprendre. En France, on a plein d'enfants
qui sont stressés tout le temps, d'autant plus face aux évaluations de maths. Voilà, il y a aussi autre chose à faire de ce côté-là, mais un gros stress, et on a beaucoup d'enfants en fait qui n'osent pas rentrer dans les apprentissages parce qu'ils ont peur de se tromper. Donc on voit que là il y a déjà un travail à faire. Donc Max en particulier, il y a un travail à faire de ce côté-là. On voit que Max il a du mal à s'organiser. Donc ça veut dire qu'il a besoin qu'on l'accompagne dans le sens du raisonnement, c'est comment je m'organise. Ça veut dire que c'est quand il a quelque chose à faire, il faut qu'on puisse lui donner des points de repère. Qu'est-ce que je fais en premier, en deuxième et en troisième? Comment je sais que j'ai réussi? Donc tous ces éléments-là, en fait, finalement, vont répondre aux besoins de Max. Et puis, on va l'aider plus globalement à s'organiser dans les différentes tâches et les différents lieux. Donc cette entrée par les besoins, en fait, elle a un ancrage scientifique. Hein, c'est pas juste une application, on va dire de la loi qui nous demande d'aller plus loin que la question du handicap et puis de voir vraiment les besoins de la personne. C'est de se dire en fait que en France, du côté de la recherche, on n'utilise plus besoin éducatif particulier. Alors, je ne sais pas s'il y en a qui ont fait attention. Dans les articles, on l'utilise plus. En fait, eh ben non, on va utiliser les besoins situés. Alors, c'est pas grand-chose, mais quand même. Pourquoi je dis ça? Parce qu'en fait, le besoin situé, ce qu'il veut dire, c'est que il faut se concentrer sur la tâche à réaliser. Quand on regarde la tâche à réaliser, quel est l'obstacle que l'enfant doit franchir? Quand on a réussi à penser cet obstacle, est-ce que finalement, il n'y a pas des choses que je pourrais mettre en place pour tout le monde? Là, on voit que Max, il a du mal à s'organiser. Donc, je vais lui donner un exercice et l'exercice, peut-être que je vais couper en plusieurs étapes. On va dire en 3 étapes. Et ces 3 étapes-là, déjà, je vais peut-être pouvoir me dire, je vais peut-être le faire pour tout le monde. Si je le fais pour tout le monde, je vais gagner du temps. Donc, on a cette entrée universelle. Mais si je pense suffisamment bien la situation d'apprentissage, ben finalement, Max, il n'aura peut-être pas de problème pour rentrer dans les apprentissages. Ça veut dire qu'au lieu de dire que c'est lui qui est à besoin particulier, là, l'objectif, c'est de se dire c'est la situation qui fait que, à un moment donné, il va être ou non en difficulté. Donc, notre travail à nous, en tant qu'enseignants, et c'est ce qu'on travaille avec les étudiants, c'est d'aller chercher plus loin que la difficulté qui est visible chez l'enfant, mais de voir en fait en quoi la situation d'apprentissage, c'est elle qui provoque en fait un certain nombre de barrières. Donc, retenez, on parle de besoins situés pour le coup. Donc, c'est une évolution majeure pour la France, mais il va falloir un petit peu de temps pour que ça se mette en place. Et donc, pour faire une synthèse de ces éléments-là, la bascule qui s'opère en ce moment au niveau des formations, c'est que on accompagne les étudiants à comprendre que la première entrée, c'est l'accès universel. C'est-à-dire comment je pense cette situation de manière très large pour que tous les enfants, quelle que soit leur difficulté, puissent rentrer dans la situation d'apprentissage. Et ensuite, en deuxième temps, je peux être amenée à mettre en place des choses très particulières, très spécifiques, parce qu'on a toujours des enfants qui n'arrivent pas quand même à rentrer dans les apprentissages. Alors, c'est juste un exemple, hein, mais ce changement-là, j'allais dire c'est une évolution, c'est presque une révolution, parce que ça change tout le mode de pensée selon lequel, en fait, nombre d'enseignants ont été formés. Donc on est dans ce virage de transformation au niveau de la France, mais voilà, c'est une transformation qui est en train de s'opérer à l'échelle universitaire. Donc on sait aussi qu'après, il faut le temps que ça puisse se mettre en application sur le terrain. Donc ça risque de demander encore quelques années.
Merci beaucoup pour cette perspective française et on aura peut-être encore un peu de temps de parler justement de la différence entre des approches universelles pour tout le monde et des approches un peu plus spécifiques pour des enfants qui ont besoin de plus de support pendant notre temps de discussion. So let's now move on to Celia, who will give us the Spanish perspective.
Well, thank you. I've divided this presentation into 2 parts. Firstly, I'm going to introduce the legal framework very briefly. Also, just to highlight the most important figures when dealing with diversity in order to present the 3 real cases that I'm going to present and how we approach the difficulties with these students. In Andalusia, which is where I come from, inclusive education is mainly guided by the national law, which is LOMLOE. And additionally, there are other regional regulations and decrees, also instructions, that complement and adapt this national legislation to the specific context of our region. These regulations, they outlines the principles, the rights, and different measures for inclusive education, ensuring that education in Andalusia gives an answer to the needs of all of our students. According to the stated laws, the pedagogical lines and principles for ensuring education inclusion in education comprehend, of course, the universal design for learning, because it allows teachers to create flexible learning environments addressing the different learning styles, spaces, and abilities, as you just have mentioned in your presentation. And also, and one of the most important measures that we have is the creation of individualized education plans and support systems in order to adapt teaching methods, contents, and strategies to meet the individual needs of our students. This includes multiple strategies, as we will see later on, including the collaborative teaching or the project-based approach. This is mainly paperwork that we need to complete to justify our jobs. But apart from that, it's just very good guidelines for teachers. We work as a team in education. This applies to both primary and secondary education. The tutor is like the central figure and serves as a coordinator with the rest of the teachers and the counseling department. The counselor guides and coordinates the different measures and the programs for our students. And the PT in AL stands in Spanish as Pedagogía Terapéutica, which is the support teacher. And they work with the special needs students as co-tutors with, and they work closely with the teaching staff as well as with these students. I'm just briefly presenting the different types of students, how the law categorizes these students in order to give a proper answer to their needs, to the different needs. The special needs students, they have cognitive, sensorial, and physical disabilities. They have specific programs and are closely monitored by the PT specialists. These students are, they are closely followed by the specialists. The high capacity students, because they are also part of this of inclusion, they need to be included. The students who struggle with learning, presenting in this category the students who suffer dyslexia, dysgraphia, or ADHD. And finally, the compensatory students who present unfavored social background, which is the case that I'm going to, the three cases that I'm going to present. These students, they derive from different situations, from non-supportive families, immigrants, irregular assistants to school, children of seasonal workers, or those who have been hospitalized and who have spent a very long period of time out of school. The three cases that I'm presenting today who have different names, of course, in order to protect their identities. I have taught these students recently in the last 2 years, so I'm familiar with the situations. The first one is Ala. She's she comes from Ukraine. She's 12 years old and is schooled in the first year of compulsory secondary education. She barely speaks Spanish. It's a problem. She doesn't speak Spanish in a Spanish country, which is quite a problem. She can follow the lessons. She cannot. She's just there. Her behavior is wonderful. She's really trying. Academically, she's trying really hard. After a meeting with the counselor, a Spanish as a foreign language specialist is required because she needs to speak Spanish. She needs to learn Spanish in order to live here, to live there. But our regional education department, we are don't grant us with this specialist because we have a staff shortage in Andalusia. So we can't have this specialist. Now we can make use of the PT specialist, who is not a Spanish as a foreign language, but she is designing a specific program for ALA and includes some methodological guidelines for teachers to follow. For example, she is not having a second foreign language, so she can have 2 extra hours in the week of Spanish. Her place in the classroom is needs to be next to the teacher and next to another student who is someone who is trustworthy, and she's going to accompany her throughout her day. She's assigned as her tutor. And as far as methodology is concerned, collaborative work is preferred so she can integrate better in class. Realities, our teachers are not prepared for this methodology to work and to be implemented on a daily basis. Social integration is one of the most important issues here, so she can acquire curricular content as she improves in her Spanish. We don't have, one of the problems we have, apart from the shortage, is that we don't have time, real time, to adapt our contents and resources to other languages. Ideally, we wish to scaffold her learning process by adapting the different tasks and activities to her mother tongue. This issue, along with the reduction of the ratio in class, we are dealing with around 25 to 30 students in every class, would allow teachers to attend the different individual needs in a proper way. I'm moving now to Alex. He's 14 years old. He's retaking the first year of compulsory secondary education. Alex's parents are seasonal workers, so his time at school is temporal. Sorry. They are continuously moving around the country looking for different jobs. Absence in this specific case, is the most important issue to address with these students. We need to make sure that they come to school every day so that they don't disconnect from the educational system. In this sense, Alex is new at our school. He knows nobody, and apparently her parents, he presents no difficulties except for his motivation to study. In this case, we don't need the PT specialist because he's not struggling with learning, but the whole teaching staff need to pay attention to social integration because we need Alex to feel comfortable in class, so he wants to come to school. And of course, motivation. While Alex is looking for his place socially, we need to help him find the motivation to continue his studies once he leaves our school, because he's leaving. So we need to help him aware that it's worth it to continue. And we need to work on his self-esteem. Going around schools may provoke a rejection towards the educative system. Their families, his family, show interest in the learning process. They are usually working a lot, so they have no time to attend school meetings or help him during the day. And this is an added difficulty that these students in general are facing. And Angel is the last student that I'm presenting. He's retaking the second year of compulsory secondary education. He's 15 years old. Probably Angel is one of the most common cases that we have in our region when dealing with these unmotivated students. He's part of the compensatory program because his behavior is really bad and he is always defying the authority. This program thanks to the compensatory program, we are allowed to have the PT as a support teacher in our class. These students in general come from vulnerable situations. In this case, Angel lives only with his mother and is not an active part of education. It's his grandmother who attends to school meetings and is the one who is in charge in reality, actually, of Angel. For this reason, there is a huge disconnection between Angel and the educative system. For this reason, the counseling department established that we need to reinforce the social strategies and help him become part of our society. And how can we make that with a student who doesn't want to be part of this? We need to work interdisciplinary with interdisciplinary projects when it is possible. Teachers, they are not prepared nowadays to implement this methodology on a daily basis, but I want to believe that this is becoming more recurrent. And the program of discipline is of the utmost importance with these students in order to understand, for them to understand that there is a direct connection between their acts and the consequences. These programs are usually formed by teachers who work closely with the students, talking and helping them anytime they need and anytime they ask for help. The disconnection between these students and the educational system is aggravated because of their low self-esteem. And that is why we need positively reinforce anytime that is possible. Even though they are not following the right directions, if we see any kind of connection with the educative system, it's imperative to reinforce it. Angel is one of the students who has benefited from the lesson study cycle that we implemented last year. His implication in the project, he was part of the task and he followed every instructions and the activities. So it was a success. Being interdisciplinary, he felt that it was something meaningful. It was something that it was worth it to follow. To conclude, I just want to point out the fact that we are facing a problem. Diversity inclusion is something that only those teachers who are highly motivated are capable to solve. It's not like it's a problem. The problem is that we have no time. Teachers have, in Andalusia at least, have no time to dedicate to the 25 or 30 students we have in every class. So it's a problem, and we are going to solve it.
Thank you very much for your presentation on the Spanish context, and especially your case studies, which were really helped to bring the context to life. Thank you so much. And now, last but absolutely not least, we're moving on to Lithuania before we open up for questions and a brief summary and discussion.
Thank you. My presentation will be about two things. I will say a few aspects about Lithuanian inclusive education and about IT tools, how it used to teach students who have special needs. Lithuanian strategic education documents are focused on updating inclusivity in the field of education and are fundamentally aligned with key international principles of inclusive education. The main goal of the inclusive education system in Lithuania is to ensure that all learners have the opportunity to receive appropriate and high quality education in local educational institution together with their peers. Important aspects of inclusivity is the opportunity for individuals to develop according to their abilities. These aspects includes adapting the learning environment, providing individualized support tools, and adjusting the curriculum. Of course, the education program must be tailored to meet the abilities, needs of each learner. When evaluating achievements, consideration must be given to the alignment of learning outcomes with the goals achievable through personal learning abilities, and assessment tools should be flexible, inclusive, and grounded in principles of universal design for learning. In each school have well-being committee. This committee coordinates support for students at school. It may include, in this committee may include parents, teachers, class leaders, local communities, and other individuals interested in the well-being of a child. The purpose of well-being committees is to create a safe school environment, plan education support, organize and evaluate its effectiveness, conduct initial assessment of special education needs, manage crisis situation, and provide recommendation to educators and educational organization issues. And from the 1st of September on 2024, in Lithuania, it is planned that conditions for education in the nearest school, preschool or general education, alongside peers, should be provided for every child with special needs. And we have challenges. The first challenges is particularly in providing support to teachers. Various support measures are implemented to assist teachers in implementing inclusive education, such as reducing the maximum number of students assigned to a class, encouraging teachers to participate in professional development activities, and providing educational support. Various digital teaching tools are also being developed to help individualize education. Second challenge is collaboration with parents. The smooth collaboration with parents contributes to creating an inclusive school culture. However, there is room for improvement in school collaboration, as it is identified as the weakest indicator in leadership and management. Other challenges is collaboration with specialists. It is very important in educating students with special educational needs. It is essential to ensure proper support from education specialists and teacher assistant to help teacher. And preparation of individual classes and school communities to integrate students with special needs is emphasized, recognizing that not all parents may initially be willing to have their children learn with special needs students. And now I would like to present few robots. We use it at school. It helps to teach special needs students. And you can see robots, the snail, which is one of the favorite robots for primary school students, and snail recognizes cards and moves accordingly each step. And for example, she may be saying, turn left, turn right, I am on the red color, I am on the fruit banana. With the snail, we can teach programming, math, and colors, fruits, letters. The second robot is Photon, with which is on the carpet, and teachers put on the carpet different tasks, and the students can program robots with tablets, and robots can go, for example, students have a list with Lithuanian words, and on the carpet are different English words, and students have to find English, translate from Lithuania to English and to find English words. We have IMO cubes. It is interactive cubes, and which helps to students learn letters, to students learn read, and you can use it, for example, to sort something, for example, which are wooden, which are plastic, which is from paper. And you can see the interactive map and interactive t-shirts, and I have interactive t-shirts here. And yes, and I would like to show you. Renata, please help me. Of course, teacher can dress it, but at this moment, no. Just a moment. What is it? Button, yes. And I have apps on the phone or on the tablet, and I will scan it. And we can see what is in your body. Yeah. And you can listen how your heart pumps, beats. Yes. You can see. You can see what is inside in the heart. Why? Sorry, not. You can see the blood, how it runs in your body. You can see digestive. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay. And which tools helps to learn and to teach students?
Thank you very much. The last slot is always the most difficult, but with your interactive presentation, you've definitely woken up those who may have fallen asleep, but I don't think anyone has. Thank you so much. That was great. So we have covered lots of different national contexts, a lot of different educational needs, such as subject specificity, special educational needs, high achievers, lower achievers, autism spectrum, children whose parents are abroad or are seasonal workers, briefly covered multilingualism as well, or families from lower socioeconomic backgrounds and how that impacts children's ability to participate in the school context. And something that's really universal design has been mentioned in nearly all of the presentations today. And as I was scribbling along as you were all presenting, and what it occurred to me is that there seem to be a number of strategies that are important to support students with special educational needs, but equally for students without special educational needs, if there are any. You could argue about that for a while, I think. So first of all, there seems to be individualization, meeting students where they are at, and building on that. There seems to be an element of enjoyment and motivation and playfulness that is important, and engagement. Self-directed learning came up, students being able to decide to some extent on the what, the how, and the with whom they want to learn. The role of direct teaching was discussed and alternative teaching methods. So a move away potentially from direct teaching and encouraging more group and pair work and interaction between students and their teachers. Tactile and embodied learning came up, similarly to multimodality and creativity and the use of literature. We have seen a beautiful example there. The importance of modeling examples is something that's come through. So students who are struggling to organize their own learning and how modeling can help them to structure their learning sequences and organize their learning. The role of scaffolding, so really showing students the different steps that are involved in the learning process, making that more explicit to them. And illustrating it. We saw an example of how that might look like in academic learning, but also in socio-emotional learning, when children might be overwhelmed with their emotional reactions. But 2 points that shouldn't be underestimated, and that again came through in many of the presentations, was the socio-emotional aspect and the aspect of well-being, making sure that our students feel at home in school to some extent, that they feel welcome, that they feel supported by their teachers and their peers, and thus the role of relationships with their teachers and their peers in their classroom. So these are just about 15 points, 15 strategies that came that I have heard, and I'm sure I've missed some as I was listening to you. And we also covered the policy context, a number of different policy contexts, actually 6 different ones, where we covered the role of school segregation, special schools versus approaches towards inclusion, supported by special educational plans and support systems, specialist teachers, so how we can ensure that students are integrated into the wider school system. Teacher training, but also I think one thing that shouldn't be underestimated is the question of teacher shortages. In a lot of the countries present here, teacher shortages continue to be an issue and will likely be a growing issue in the years to come. So something that we need to, and especially when it comes to specialist teachers. We discussed the difference between accessibility and inclusion, and which aspects might sometimes be more on the forefront of teachers' minds, making material accessible, but is that inclusion? Is that everything? And there seems to be a trend towards inclusion over separation, at least in policy, and what some countries are ideally aiming for. But there are clearly some continuous barriers there, such as teacher shortages, as we said, and teacher training. And finally, of course, the role of digital tools, which in the current context we shouldn't underestimate. And I think we're only just starting to touch the surface. So in the context of all of this, I'd like to address my first question to the panel, relating specifically to that question of universality versus specialist teaching. So I've highlighted a few strategies that you have mentioned in your presentations, but just as a summary in a one sentence thought, as we don't have a lot of time, what do you think the relationship is between effective teaching for everybody and specialist teaching for those that might need particular support? Where's the line, if there is one, and what's the best approach to combining the two approaches? Who wants to go first?
Thank you. Unlike my distinguished colleagues here, I never got the time to refer to the problems in the Romanian education system. So if we take into account on the very nice intentions of the Romanian policymakers, Romania may sound like a haven of inclusion for its students. Obviously, that is not the case. But to answer your question quickly, I can't possibly believe in one approach fit all types of students. That's not just feasible. But if most, if not all teachers were to become more aware of what inclusive teaching means, building rapport, getting to know your students, making sure that what you do is based on what they become able to do and not on your presentation, like we did here, because it felt like wasting 15 precious minutes of your time with the Romanian education law. Giving the students focusing on the students' well-being, as well as listening to them. These are things that all of us can do, regardless of numbers, programs in which we participate, and so on.
Alors, moi, je pense que il n'y a pas une contradiction entre les deux tâches et que projeter dans une manière universelle, soit dans le même temps tenir compte des différences de chacun de nos élèves, et donc la spécialisation devrait nous permettre de savoir les quand et si il est nécessaire de mettre en œuvre des interventions spécialisées ou différentes, parce qu'il y a des choses qui sont bien pour tous et des choses qui sont nécessaires pour quelqu'un afin de mettre tout dans la condition d'apprendre.
Alors, je vais rebondir, ça va aller effectivement dans le même sens. Les deux sont pas forcément à opposer, mais c'est plutôt l'idée que la première chose à laquelle on devrait penser, c'est d'abord l'accès universel. Alors, sans rêver, on a toujours quelques enfants qui n'arrivent pas malgré cette approche-là. Donc, auquel cas, dans un deuxième temps, on peut passer sur une approche plus spécialisée, mais pas dans l'autre sens. Pas d'abord du spécialisé, parce que sinon on recrée en fait finalement des catégories, des différences, etc. Mais ça demande toute une manipulation intellectuelle qui n'est pas si évidente que ça.
Shando, I just want to give you an opportunity online as well if you want to come in.
I think almost everything is told. We need both. I mean, universality and speciality as well. But the question is speciality.
I think it's the computer volume. Le son, il est baissé dans l'ordinateur. Ouais. Enfin, coupé carrément, je pense.
Non, pour moi, c'est bon.
Non, en bas à droite, là, non? Want to try again, Shando?
Okay.
Yes, it's working now. We can hear you.
The question is specialty in what? And I think our specialty, if we are dealing with children, then our specialty is children. So the teacher's specialty is helping children to learn. And so this is why I told we need both. So the good teacher's specialty is universality. It sounds strange, but I think it's true.
Absolutely, yes. It's that doesn't have to be an opposition. It seems definitely part of a continuum more than an opposition. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Right, I think at this point I'll open up to questions from the floor. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui a des questions pour nos intervenants? Non, il me semble pas. So maybe we can just go back to the policy context again. We've had so many presentations on different policy contexts, and where would you situate the role of teacher expertise in all of this, and the role of continuous professional development? What do you think the most important aspect would be for teachers to develop in terms of moving away from a deficit model, moving towards universal design? Is it about the methods? Is it about the better theoretical understanding of different needs? Is it a move away from a medical model? And what might the best strategies be to present that training to teachers to make it most engaging, so that all teachers become, in a way, specialist teachers for students with special educational needs? We're nearly at Christmas, so it can be a wish to Santa Claus.
Okay, one thing that comes to mind at this point, in our context, obviously, the intentions are good. What do we do to put them into practice? So, a top-down approach is necessary, definitely, but the bottom-up approach is a must, because if these great policies do not reach the individual student, then they're in vain. So I would go with better professional development, better pre-service and in-service teacher training. I would also go with better ways of forming future generations of teachers. So special programs to make them become aware of what inclusive education needs, and teach them how to reach out for each and every student in every possible way.
From the way I see it, and I have expressed that in my presentation, I think it's in Spain, the legal framework is excellent. I can say that, but reality is quite different, because I said that and I feel like I'm repeating myself, but we need time. I don't think it's a matter of training our teachers, because we are formed, we study, we have post education and after the masters and the degrees, and we have excellent professionals that are teaching us, teachers, but we need time to make that happen, because they are asking us to attend 25 students approx. With their individual needs. Every one of them matters. And I'm not sure how I can do that with one class of 25, two classes with 25 and three classes with 25. At least I have 80, well, I have around 80 students in total. And I'm not sure how can I do that without the time that we do it because we want to, because we care for our students, but really we need that in Spain.
Pas seulement en Espagne. En France, c'est pareil. Je pense que je vais reprendre le terme. C'est la question du temps, en fait, parce que on a des enseignants qui ont un temps compté devant élèves, mais qui n'ont pas du temps qui est pensé pour travailler avec les familles, travailler avec les autres professionnels, ce qui fait que c'est toujours des choses qui sont en plus et pas reconnues forcément dans leur travail. Donc ça fait aussi qu'on a des professionnels, des enseignants qui sont épuisés et qui n'ont plus forcément la force de repenser leurs gestes professionnels, de repenser les choses. Donc voilà, dans une des choses, c'est bientôt Noël, on y croit, mais ce serait cette idée effectivement d'avoir du temps, mais qui est reconnu comme étant du travail. C'est pas du temps pour rien faire en fait.
Chandler, would you like to come in?
Well, I am a student of Carl Rogers, And I am a great believer in the person-centered approach. So if I have one wish, I wish that teachers should be more congruent, more accepting, and more empathic understanding. And what I am doing for this purpose is that I am regularly organizing encounter groups for teachers. And this is my wish, Christmas wish, that teachers' personality should go up to the task, what they have to do every day with children.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone. So that means that, in summary, our wish list means a closer involvement of teachers in policymaking and combining a top-down and a bottom-up approach, decreasing teacher workload and contact hours so they have more time to collaborate, to prepare, and to develop their individualized approaches. Recognizing also, I heard it underneath, and I will say it as someone working for the Chartered College of Teaching, recognizing teacher expertise, teachers as the experts in the classroom. They know what they're doing, so but leaving them the time to actually do what they do best, which is working with their students. And then finally, some more empathy. And I think that's probably a nice closing note, not just in schools, but maybe beyond in the world as well. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to our wonderful speakers for your contributions to today's panel. And we have the opportunity now to continue our conversations in the room next door, is it? Or yeah.
Mind staying a little bit here and in the room next door. The discussion on a specific context, okay? And maybe I can announce as well, we need people, yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's just that we need, but afterwards we're going to have the focus groups for work package 3 that concerns the people that will be involved in the Thursday, the people going to come. So please, you may have a break, but we'll meet upstairs.
Goodbye, everybody.
And just before we leave, I would like to thank you, Lisa Maria, for your work. That was fantastic. Thank you very much. Great material to get back and to make one thing out of all this. Thank you very much.
Oui, ok. Bah, je vous envoie le lien. C'est sur la chaîne YouTube de l'Université de Bretagne. Voilà. Et donc, on fera le replay si c'est facile. Ça sera... Oui, je vous envoie ça.
Actually,